The Lizard League might have only played a relatively small part in the Invincible universe, but their impact on the story is huge, and in this video we're going to tell you everything you need to know about this reptilian-themed criminal organization. There are full spoilers ahead, you have been warned, now let's slither away into today's video. What is the Lizard League? To kick things off, the first thing you need to know is that the Lizard League is a parody of Marvel's own Serpent Society, a team of C-listers who, as the name of their group implies, fashion themselves after reptiles. But whereas Marvel almost only utilizes the Serpent Society whenever they need some baddie of the month or fodder for their superheroes to kick around, the Lizard League has more bite to it. This collection of cold-blooded criminals isn't just made up of a bunch of bozos with scaly suits, some of them actually have some reptile-themed powers. Now, all things considered, there are about 4 principal members of the Lizard League. That is to say, there's only a handful of them who are actually named in the comics, and even then, you won't find a hefty amount of backstory for each of these dastardly villains, considering that Kirkman and co. didn't really create them to be prime players within the Invincible universe. In any case, first among these Lizard League members is Salamander. You might recognize him as a rather thin dude wearing tights covered in black and gold stripes. He's one of the League's enforcers, their captains if you will, and Salamander has the ability to secrete toxins from his skin. Oh, and he can also regenerate his limbs too. Then there's Iguana, the female enforcer of their criminal clique. Her superhuman abilities can be found on her claws, which are these long, tough, sharp appendages she uses to shred her enemies. Aside from that, Iguana has a standard superhuman power that you'd see in most superhero comics, like enhanced stamina, durability, and all that stuff. The third enforcer, and arguably the Lizard League's very own proverbial franchise player, is the supervillain known as Komodo Dragon. His superpower? Well, he's super strong, like really strong, and he's got some other things going for him like his enhanced durability and a bit of a healing factor. And last but not least, we have the Lizard League's supreme leader, King Lizard. He doesn't have any superhuman abilities, but if we were to examine closely, we can say that King Lizard's superpower is his ability to have tremendous amounts of charisma, which explains how he's able to take control of an entire criminal organization. And that's pretty much it for the Lizard League's prime members, at least if you can even call them that. The rest are just unnamed henchmen who serve as punching bags for Invincible's superhero community. But like we said, their story takes some rather amusing turns that have heavy implications in the wider Invincible universe when you look at it a little bit more closely. Early crime antics. Chronologically speaking, the first time that the superheroes of the Invincible universe encounter the Lizard League can be found within the pages of Invincible Presents Adam, Eve, and Rexplode issue number 3. In that particular installment, they more or less serve as stock characters for Adam, Eve, and Rexplode to beat the crap out of before the two went on their own main adventure. At some point in Invincible's overall mythos, we also see Duplicate and her brother Multipol flatlining an entire squad of Lizard League henchmen early in their superhero careers. And before you ask, there's not really any backstory to be found here. They were just used more to help Kate and Paul's origins. But on the bright side, at least King Lizard and his scaly scoundrels gained a reputation after all these encounters with the world's up-and-coming superheroes, although it's probably not the kind of reputation they were hoping for. The next time we see the Lizard League is in the mainline Invincible series issue number 9. Here we find Mark Grayson and Adam Eve going on one of their usual super heroic patrols, only to spot these reptilian villains, well, doing some villainous things. We don't really get any context about what sort of heinous crime they're up to here. All we can tell is that King Lizard and his boys have stolen something that they need, probably for evil, before Adam Eve handed their butts to them almost by herself. In fact, Eve doesn't even break a sweat subduing these supervillains before letting the cops rein them all in. And once she and Mark were done, that was the end of it. It wasn't like their recent criminal escapade changed the Invincible universe forever or something, at least not yet. The Lizard League slithers. Now it's safe to say that the Lizard League has always gotten the short end of the supervillainy stick up until this point, but trust us when we say that things are about to change for the otherwise incompetent crew of creepy criminals, and this all happens within the pages of Invincible issues 39 to 41. For some context, what you have to know about what's happening in the Invincible universe at this point is that Mark Grayson and most of the Guardians have been sent to space to deal with an incoming alien invasion. While most of the Guardians of the Globe heavy hitters are joining that mission, only 3 remained on Earth: Rexplode, Duplicate, and Shrinking Ray. Now, by pure coincidence alone, we find that the Lizard League are up to their old ways again, but this time it's more serious. For one, King Lizard and his crew actually have a concrete plan of what they want to do. Specifically, the Lizard League plans on storming a nuclear missile silo in Andersontown, Wyoming, to basically hold the United States hostage. So, King Lizard, Komodo Dragon, Salamander, and their henchmen succeed with their violent takeover of the silo. But the Global Defense Agency, the same government office in charge of the Guardians of the Globe, catches wind of this and sends the grounded Guardians to stop them. Rexplode, Duplicate, and Shrinking Ray infiltrate the Lizard League-controlled nuclear base. These 3 Guardians quickly find out that the Lizard League isn't full of a bunch of noobs. For one, Komodo Dragon manages to brutally defeat each and every copy of Duplicate, effectively killing her. But don't worry guys, we eventually find out that she's still alive. Then, the Lizard League bruiser literally ate Shrinking Ray. You heard that right, he just ate the guy. But hey, it's not like the Guardians are just a trio of amateurs either. There was some payback to be had, and Rexplode capitalized on that. He manages to tear Iguana and Salamander to pieces with one of his supercharged rods. Rex even manages to inadvertently get some measure of revenge against Komodo Dragon when the supervillain eats his hand, not knowing that it's holding another energy-charged rod in it, which ends up with Komodo Dragon's head exploding like a grape. But King Lizard then manages to sneak behind an already battered Rexplode and gets ready to put a bullet in the superhero's head. But of course, just like any classic comic book villain, King Lizard can't help but blabber on instead of just, pulling the trigger. This allows Rex to recover just enough strength to avoid being taken out by King Lizard. King Lizard misses his shot and Rex ends up giving him a solid beating before the superhero passes out. In the aftermath of this grueling confrontation, GDA agent and super durable hero Brit arrives on the scene. A near unconscious King Lizard tries to shoot him, but the bullet just bounces off Brit's head and the Lizard League has been thwarted yet again. But this won't be the last time that we see these cold-blooded criminals. Further exploits of the Lizard League. The next time we see King Lizard and his henchmen is inside a shopping mall as Oliver Grayson, aka Kid Omni-Man, beats the crap out of them. Unlike their admittedly epic outing prior to this one, they're back to being superhero fodder yet again. Their relegation to being background characters doesn't last long, however, as the Lizard League manages to steal the spotlight again and become primary antagonists, although not within the mainline Invincible series. This all starts within the pages of Invincible Universe, issue number 7, the spin-off series focusing on other characters from their world. For context, this happens sometime around issue 96 of the mainline Invincible series during a point in the story where Robot has successfully become the world's supreme dictator. That said, we find King Lizard successfully rebuilding the League in this particular exploit. We'd even go far as to say that he managed to improve it. First off, he revived one of his dead enforcers, Salamander, through sci-fi means. It's not explicitly detailed how he did it, but we can surmise that this is an entirely different individual King Lizard experimented on and turned into an all-new version of Salamander. He then manages to recruit a new iguana along the way, and not long after that, King Lizard further bolstered his ranks by recruiting a new Komodo dragon to his cause. This time, he drafted an absolutely swole, disgraced herpetologist named Dr. Booth to serve as his new bruiser. And just to be sure that this criminal enterprise won't end like all its previous ones, King Lizard even tweaked his original recipe for his henchmen and turned them into literal lizard men, complete with sharp fangs and scaly skin. Plus, the Lizard League even found a new base of operations in the form of the dead supervillain Dinosaurus' old fortress. Seems fitting, doesn't it? So suffice to say that everything was coming up Lizard at this point. But it's not gonna last. because not long after setting up shop in Switzerland, the Global Defense Agency catches wind of the League's activities when a couple of GDA officers accidentally encounter an entire gaggle of mutated Lizard League henchmen. The League then kidnaps the two agents and transforms them into a couple of lizard men under the control of King Lizard himself. And we even get some context for the League's ultimate goal here. According to its leader, he plans on turning the entire world into lizard people, which in turn will end all war and strife in the world. His words. The rest of the GDA try to contact the downed officers in Switzerland, and they ultimately find out that the Lizard League is at it again. In fact, even Cecil Stedman, director of the GDA, admits at this point that the League has become an honest-to-goodness threat when he debriefs the Guardians of the Globe about their mission to stop them. Of course, having thwarted the League numerous times before, almost none of the Guardians of the Globe heeded Cecil's warnings initially. Well, they soon find out that the Lizard League has become an absolute problem when they arrive at their base. When they get there, Britt takes the point of the mission as he and the other Guardians are welcomed by an entire army of lizard men along with King Lizard and his enforcers. Superheroes Knockout and Kid Thor underestimate the threat and choose to ignore Britt's orders to stay in formation, and they end up getting overpowered by lizard men almost instantly. Guardians of the Globe mainstay Black Samson then tussles with Salamander, and he gets a nice overhand right to land on the League enforcer, only to be infected by Salamander's hallucinogenic toxins, which makes him go berserk and turn on his teammates. While all this is happening, the Guardian's resident speedster Outrun tries to accost King Lizard, but the villain easily traps her in an ice-like cocoon. Another superhero, Best Tiger, nearly gets choked to death when he squares up with Iguana. So yeah, suffice it to say that the Guardians of the Globe didn't need any further convincing that the Lizard League has transformed themselves from bottom feeders into actual title contenders. Invincible himself and the Immortal would arrive on the scene to aid their fellow superheroes, but at this point, all the defeated Guardians have been successfully transformed into lizard people, and King Lizard thinks he's all but won the war. But King Lizard didn't learn his lesson last time, and he goes on one of his trademark annoying monologues right after turning several of the Guardians into reptilian versions of themselves. The method King Lizard uses to transform people into lizard men doesn't really put them under his control, so transformed heroes like Bulletproof end up ignoring King Lizard's command to attack Invincible and the remaining Guardians, and instead, they beat the crap out of the Lizard League right then and there. And you know what makes it even funnier? King Lizard basically gave the captured superheroes a physical advantage over the League, considering they now have tougher skin and sharper teeth, all of which they use to absolutely wreck these villains. In the end, all members of the Lizard League are ultimately defeated, and we find King Lizard lying on the floor half dead when Kid Thor pounded him with his hammer after the superhero saw his wife Knockout had turned into a turtle lady. And as for the absolute last time we'll see the Lizard League, well, that happens when Mark Grayson travels to an alternate dimension set during a time right when he first got his powers. Mark would end up preempting all the bad stuff that happened in his home dimension here, given that he's already lived through it. So like most of the League's other appearances, we eventually see Invincible and the Guardians of the Galaxy defeating the dastardly villains, presumably preventing King Lizard and his gang from taking over the missile silo in Wyoming and killing Shrinking Ray before they even hatched a plan for it.